All right, it's the moment of truth. This is part 2 of my remake of this book into a bigger version using that dismantled book now. Ooh, I do not know whether this has worked. Ooh, I think it has worked a little bit. Certainly given them more definition than they had. Ooh. It's been a few days, so the glue has had plenty of time to dry. I think that's going to be easy. I like that. I'm going to take out my boxes. There we go. Might be a bit hard to see on camera. Probably if I darken that with something. I wonder if I can just use a... What would this do? Let's just go straight in, shall we? This is actually, I hope, picked up the right one, a water-soluble. Water-soluble crayon. I might just be able to exaggerate that. Apparently this paper has a bit of resistance, so I'm not sure if that's going to stay on there. See it all beading up. Probably going to wipe straight off. But anyway, you can see, I hope, that it has helped. Tying the ribbons, has helped to lock in that paper. Okay, might have to find something a bit more like shoe polish or, oops. Of course, having moved on quite a bit in my junk journal journey over the last 2 years, I now actually find a cover that's as plain as this not so interesting, and done as large as this, maybe even less so. However, let's finish it. Finish gluing it and see what happens next. Your guess is as good as mine. Now, one of the things that I really struggled with, I remember from school days actually, you know, when you had to cover your books at the beginning of the year. One of the things I really struggled with was leaving enough for the corners so that you didn't have a nasty gap. And something I learned that helped a lot was to save the bits you were trimming off, because in a pinch you can glue this bit that you cut off onto this corner. If you leave, you can actually see on this old book, see there was a gap here where I cut it. So let's see on camera how I go getting it right. Most helpful thing I read was somebody who suggested, they actually made a template, which I never got round to. Oh, pardon the garbage truck. They suggested making a template taking into account the height of your board. Well, I pretty often use different boards, so I didn't make a template. I just paid attention to the fact that they said if this is 2 mils, which this one is, you need to allow that 2 mils here. So if you cut it too close to the corner, like if this was, you know, for the sake of argument, oh, here we go. Say it was just a piece of cardstock and you wanted to cut your corners, you can see when you fold it that you can cut that fairly close. You just need to leave a little tiny bit because you've only got, oh, look at that. Can't believe that worked. You've only got that very thin edge. But for something like this, with the 2 mils, you need to adjust that accordingly. So, without further ado, here goes nothing. So I aim for the 2 mils plus another little bit for safekeeping. Can always cut more off. And let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. Pretty good. I could probably go a little closer because you see I've got a little point sticking out there, and if you trim that, you often run, like if you trim it from here, you'll often run into trouble. But if you come back here and just come in a little closer to that one, I think that's better. I think I'm happy with that. So go slow and eyeball your measurement and pray to the journal gods that you'll get it right enough. But if you don't, I'm bound to mess one of these up, so I'll be able to show you. I think I might actually cut that down. Okay, so here we go. All right, so here, oh no, that works. That's just not pushed in far enough that way. That's going to work. Oh. When you want to make a boo-boo, it all works. For the sake of illustrating my point, if this didn't work, I could glue that there, nice and snug to the corner, so that when I came here, what you see, actually there is a bit of a gap there. So let's do it. Let's choose a nice little piece. My lovely smelly glue. My glue book. I'll pop this one on. Like that. Trim that back a little bit. There we go. So now, instead of seeing that brown edge, this is going to wrap around and it just all looks green. So I hope that makes sense. Now the other thing I do is cut these out. You can see if I were to fold that and glue all of that, I get a whole lot of extra bulk. So I'm going to cut. I've done it my spine like this before. Let's see what happens. So if I do that there, don't you love making it? Oh, okay, so that's the wrong way. Always do things backwards. Okay, so that's okay there. And that, I think I can probably leave that. This is all going to be covered, remember, so I think I'm good. Just cut out a V and a V. And we'll see what happens, shall we? This glue does take a minute. Just clamp that there. It does take a minute to set up, which is an advantage and a disadvantage sometimes. Don't need to fuss too much with those edge pieces because that's a bit small. When I come to the next step of putting in the signatures and doing the inside cover, and this will all get covered and I can re-glue anything that's lifted then. Alrighty, and then I might do these sides. I don't think it makes any difference, especially when you're still to cover the inside, whether you do the long side or the short side first. All I'd like to do is make sure I do it the same on both front and back. I love the way when you cover a book, even when it was, you know, back in school days, and actually my mum used to cover my books because I was so bad at it. When you add the cover and you cover up the edges, and all starts to look so smart, you know. Suddenly it's like, oh, look at that. I'm going to do a hidden spine in this one, which means, for those who don't know, that my signatures will be attached. This is not for this book, but I'll make the signatures and then I will sew them to another strip of fabric covered card. So they'll all be together with that, and then when they're done, that will get glued in here. So it'll have a hollow spine between the stitching and this outer spine. Makes for a very tidy finish, which I like. Alrighty, so there we go. Now, what probably needs to happen to this now is to be put under, oh look, have that put under a nice heavy book. And probably take those ones off. And I'll do the same with that. Put that under some books and let that glue set up properly before I tackle anything else. Although actually at this point I'll move it to another table because we can still work on the signatures, so long as I've actually looked at the size of the book, which I don't think I did, but that's all right. Next time we'll pull the papers together, build the signatures, and then I'll show you how to make a hidden spine to put inside this to make our new improved flat opening version of this little guy. See you then. Bye. Thanks for watching.